All right, good morning, everyone. It is a true pleasure to be here. I have had the opportunity to work with the FESPA team, with our extended team at Infotrends for several years now, helping everyone kind of get an understanding of where the market is, what are the new things that are happening in the market, and where we're heading, and what are the opportunities that are open for us going forward. So in the next 20 minutes, we'll try to kind of cover a wide swath of where we are today, the market pulse, and where we're going and heading into the future. I'll give you a little bit of a taste of some of the markets and technologies that are moving and helping our industries and our services and our businesses grow on a regular basis. Typically, when we look at the markets as we hear about them today through the media, we see a variety and range of applications, and we hear a lot of different news about technology, whether it's packaging, functional printing, decorative printing, or 3D printing. There is a variety of those around us, and we're probably asking ourselves on a regular basis, all right, where do I go? Where are the places that I want to be in as my business develops and moves forward? And to that end, we first need to know where we're coming from and what are we doing today and what our customers are looking for as we are servicing them today. And Infotrends had the great pleasure to work with the FESPA team now for several years in developing a view of what you believe to be your markets, your opportunities. But generally speaking, we can say that optimism is high. Everyone is looking at their businesses, looking at the industry, and they believe that the markets are going, there is some improvement in the economy, and we can see some of that picks up, particularly when we're moving from traditional printing also into digital printing. And as we're looking at digital growth, one of the things that kind of gives us some of a directional of where things to come, we've seen over the last few years movement in certain key areas that tells us where technology is going. We've seen greater demand for UV ink, greater demand for inks from latex, and we've seen some technologies declining as we're moving along. That is an indicator for us that not only the markets are moving, but also the applications and the type of things we're producing on an ongoing basis are heading towards. From a print provider, though, we see the continuous need for speed. Everyone wants to be able to produce material faster, more effectively, but very quickly we go from speed into I need specialty materials that will adhere to new surfaces that can open new applications and new markets for me. We're looking at the ability to have more capacity to run continuously, and that is all types of indicators that are telling us that the market is still strong and it's still delivering very a range of varied applications. When we're looking from your customer's perspective, okay, we all see the continued kind of trend of mass customization that's driving everything they're telling us. They're coming to us on a daily basis asking for things with a shorter turnaround. This is the results of 225 respondents from the print buying community telling us they would like to have just-in-time manufacturing, shorter runs, more versioning and personalization. But you see there is one element here that is kind of missing. They're not really speaking a lot about quality because quality is assumed. They know that when they walk into our shops and they're looking for a product, we can provide to them the right quality that they need. We're now just discussing what is the workflow, what is the frequency, the right pricing, and elements of this nature. So knowing that we respond to the market needs, knowing that the markets are recovering in certain areas, in certain economies, knowing the fundamentals of new technology, we want to look at some of the industries that are driving our moves into 2014 and beyond. But to understand that, I want to put some things in context. And in the context of when we're looking at new business opportunities, we're looking for adjacencies. We've all been in the graphics communication markets producing documents and wide format printing, we're seeing some of these technologies migrating into packaging and into decorative printing, and as you'll hear later on from myself and from Raghu about functional printing. But what you've probably seen as we do all of this is we have also migration from documents that communicate into functional types of technologies that actually produce, or the outcome is a product. We're moving from simple colored inks into inks and materials that actually perform a certain function, and we have moved from paper and plastics to industrial substrates, from ceramic tiles to wood panels to textiles, and ultimately, if you're looking at what happens in 3D printing, we're moving into functional materials that are not the typical types of materials we deal with on a daily basis. So there is a wide range of applications that we're dealing with on a daily basis that could become opportunities for digital printing as we move into the future. So trying to quantify some of these is sometimes difficult. However, we've made an attempt here to lay down some of those technologies and opportunities over the development cycle of markets. And you can see some of the maturing markets, you know, CAD design printing, addressing, photo, barcoding. Those are mature types of applications. There's a lot of volume. We've seen them, we've produced them on a regular basis. We know how to handle those. However, there's a range of applications that are now inside very big cycles of growth. Ceramic tile printing, you've seen exploding in Europe and now starting to grow very significantly in the Far East. Textile printing, another core innovation that came from Europe, is growing very, very dramatically. I've met with a few customers in Europe this week. The last one I met with said that by 2018, he's going to be 100% digital. Now, there's always going to be some exceptions to this, but this is where the market is going. By the way, ceramics in Europe is about 90% digital today. But you can see there is a range of applications that for digital printing are now just emerging. So products are becoming available, workflow is becoming available, and this continued push on demand for customization is driving those innovations, and ultimately we can translate those into business success. One of the big packaging printers in the world told me about a month ago that they have to do on their analog presses 22 make-readies a day. All right? Remember this number, 22 make-readies a day. That is impossible to do on a sustainable basis because your press mostly stands as opposed to print. So the change that they're embracing is going to be around digital printing, which is going to move onward. And the same is true for laminates, glass printing, and there is some functional printing there as well. The reason why these are still in the emerging and the sub-million category is because the category you look at is, you know, digital printing. And digital printing is very small, although the markets for printed electronics and all of those types of devices are very, very big. So if you're looking at how much inkjet is today in printed electronics, it's a very small component of the market. But as you'll see later in the day, the potential is very, very big. Now, if we take a look at each one of those in a closer look, in the packaging market space, we can see, as I said, mass customization driving everything. Printed matter is the way the brands communicate with their customers through their packages, through the way they look and feel on the shelf and in the stores. And brand recognition is critical. You've probably seen in Europe the Share a Coke campaign, and you've probably seen some technologies that are enabling digital printing. We see a range of B2 plus machines coming into the market, so we're moving from narrow 13-inch label printing only machines into devices that can do folding cartons, and you probably heard about some technologies that will enable corrugated printing from HP, one of our sponsors here, one of their big printers, and other companies coming into that space. Because packaging has to do a lot with food, we also see low migration UV starting to play a significant role in that space because of health considerations. And a new thing that's now starting to emerge, and you'll probably hear this term popping up again and again and again, is packaging design algorithms. So the designers are starting to take note of the ability to produce packages digitally, and they're starting to figure out a way to design one look for the beginning of a process and a one look for the end of the process, and have a software algorithm that will design the packaging automatically, because now we can run every package on the press, if we choose to do so, differently, such as the Share a Coke campaign or other types of materials. So the brand owner is starting to think, how do I hook up my customers deeper? Customization, not necessarily personalization, but customization is one of the ways to do that. If we're looking at wide format, you're all familiar with wide format printing, continues to grow. Brazil is going to be a big boom for wide format printing, whether it's going to be down in Brazil or anywhere else in the world. Get ready, it's coming. There's going to be a lot of volume to be printed. However, there is tensions within this space, because we're all looking for new opportunities, and commercial printers and wide format printers are starting to look at the same market, and they're starting to converge. Ultimately, the goal is to provide total communication solutions. Many of you have done it already and continues to move in that direction. Commoditization of some of the output is changing the supply chain and how we're handling the materials and the inks that go into our equipment. And of course, workflow efficiency will ultimately drive profitability. The least amount of hands that are touching a job from beginning to end, the more profitable the job is going to be going forward. And of course, we're starting to see wide format providers that are predominantly in the sign and display market starting to move into the decor market. Look at the hotel rooms over here. I just came in from Italy, where I saw McDonald's, completely customized walls everywhere, customized floors, from the front of the store all the way into the bathrooms. So a lot of opportunities with chains to do things that has to do with the decor of the facility, not necessarily with signage and pricing information and promotions. As far as technology, we see a lot of integrated workflow solution coming into that space, link between mobile and interactivity to augment print. You'll see some samples during today how print and augmented reality work together to drive better customer experience at the end of the day. Of course, there is growth in die sub. A lot of the wide format printers that we talk to in the US and in Europe saying that textile printing is one area that they're looking at to add to their business. And of course, we mentioned before, there is a big shift to UV latex and eco-solvent to address a lot of the applications that are in the market today. Now, this is a very loaded slide, because on the decorative market, there is a range of applications you want to look at, but you have to make sure that their adjacency to the businesses you have today is augmented with a good business plan. There is a range of application in many, many industry, predominantly driven by mass customization, by the need of consumers and customers to have something that is unique to them. We see a lot of volume growing at about 20 to 30% per annum in digital textile printing. And I want to say that digital textile printing could be as simple as a small device or as big as devices that run 8,000 plus linear meters an hour, I'm sorry. So there is a range of different products represented by some of the sponsors of the show that could literally revolutionize this market. We've talked about digital printing of ceramic tiles. It's a very unique market. It's not easy to get into that space. It's very limited to a certain range of players, but there is that niche and the ability to print on tiles both with Fritz and also with die sub. So we want to look at that sometimes to see if there's opportunities there. Glass printing is becoming a very, very interesting application. And it's split into two worlds. One is the industrial world. Think about automotive glass. If you look at the windshields of your cars, they all have this black little vignette fade around it. This is all printed. On the flip side of that, if you look at architectural glass, you can make small window panes that are printed in color. You can make backsplashes for kitchens, for restrooms, for any decor application. You can see a lot of these are in decor applications. Of course, another market that's up and coming, which is now fairly small, but is going to become very, very attractive, is the world of laminates. Now, the world of laminates in and of itself is very wide. think wallpapers, think floor covering, think MDF board, think polypropylene, and all of those materials that get laminated onto a surface in order to create a decorative layer. These could all be done digitally. There is some movement in that space. There is very big players in the market, but there's also a lot of opportunity to smaller players to get in. And a lot of these are driven by the ongoing development in inkjet. I must say that inkjet has been evolved in the last couple of decades dramatically. New print heads manufactured with MEMS technology make the heads less expensive, more reliable, and we can see today machines that have shuttling heads for certain types of volumes, all the way to machines with over 3 meters wide of linear inkjet head that can produce thousands of material in a given hour. There are new inks for the different materials you want to print on. You can possibly jet most everything onto any surface provided that it's prepared correctly. And the material sciences have evolved to a point that for pretty much every applications, from decorative onto paper that can bring in some glitter and dimensional, all the way down to 3D, those materials and those printers are playing an important role. Of course, it all comes into an integrated manufacturing process. Someone's have to build it into a process that would fit within the industry it's going to. So those industries are not, they're not uniform. You don't just buy a printer and you can serve all of them. You have to figure out which side of the market you want to be in, where is the adjacency into your business when you go into those spaces. And of course, wide range of solutions from high volume to entry level, and productivity and software and tools that will allow the customers to interact directly with you, and as we said, reduce the amount of labor that it takes to get a job from idea into final production. And the last two areas that I want to cover comes a little bit into functional printing. Raghu will talk about this a little more. You've all heard about 3D printing. I doubt there is anyone in this room that have not heard about 3D printing. If there is someone that didn't, please raise your hand. All right? There is a lot of hype in this space. There is a very wide range of applications you can see from the samplers over here. And we're starting to see print-for-pay facilitators coming into market. Now, they're not typically just printers, but engineering companies and design companies and product design and industrial designers. So there is a range of industry and a range of applications they cover. And there is some signs that the Asian markets are starting to pick up on the equipment side. Up till now, it was predominantly US and Europe, and it's now moving into Asia as well. However, from a financial perspective, we're likely to see some realignment coming into the future because a lot of those companies today are overvalued compared to what they actually produce. But what you want to keep in mind with 3D is there is at least 6 or 7 distinct different technologies in 3D. So you don't buy one printer and it does everything. If you want to do metal, it's one thing. If you want to do plastic, it's another thing. If you want to do chocolate, it's yet another thing. So be very careful as you're looking at 3D and figure out who is your customers, what do you want to do with them, and how do you apply that ultimately to your business, even though the range of application is mind-boggling. Now, printed electronics is an area that a lot of you have been looking at vis-a-vis a lot of work we do in membrane switch printing. Membrane switch printing has always been done with screen printing, now moving into digital with UV inks. However, the developments in conductive inks are such that soon enough we might be able to see products that do the membrane in addition to some conductive layer attached to it, which is a very interesting proposition. There are conductive inks used to print RFIDs, but as we go further and further out, we're starting to see very specialized applications, which we'll hear about in details in a few minutes, but screens are becoming printable items with inkjet into OLED technologies and things of that nature. Those are real high-end, clean room types of manufacturing, but all of this is enabled by those new technologies that we looked at vis-a-vis print heads, and the rest of the technologies go with it. So we heard about some of those markets, and let's take a look at some of those things that this community said combined of the things that are growing. And you can see that the top three areas that we've talked about, that are growing for our audience is textiles, point-of-purchase displays, and wallpaper. So we can see that the decor market space is opening up. There is the ability to help companies, retailers, change seasons, get new materials, get them quicker, get them faster, and have an infinite opportunities for designs. So we want to make sure that we look at this and kind of figure out how that all fits into our business model, which is the key for everything we're going to be doing in the next couple of days. I mean, traditionally, we all looked at, here's the cost of printing, digital versus analog. It was very, very simple. You buy so many meters in analog, you buy so many meters in digital. This is the price. I quote you the price, I'm done. Well, the world is not that simple anymore. And we have to, together, transform our businesses. It's not anymore about just providing printed output by the square meter or by the square foot. It's about understanding your customer's operation, and from that, understand what product you can offer them that you can do today, and what products you can move into in the future, then help them, target them, and ultimately drive the revenues and profits that emerge out of this partnership or strategic partnership between you and your customers. So I think that this is the range of markets and range of opportunities that are open to us for innovation, for new types of products and new types of solutions that we can work with our customers on developing.